Hi, everyone.
Alex, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? It's nice to put a face to you now.
It's nice to see you today. Thank you so much for making the time and coming with us on this call today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Sorry I'm late. The email
No
was
worries. It's
not
totally
in
fine.
immediately.
So, before we dive into the conversation, I would love to introduce everyone to who you are and the work you do. So, without further ado, here we have Alex Reynolds, who is an American travel photographer, writer, and solo female backpacker whose work has been featured on Lonely Planet, BBC Travel, AP News, and more. She scrambled up fortress ruins in Afghanistan, watched gods dance in South India, galloped horses across the Kyrgyz steppe, and motorbiked all over Pakistan. She blogs at Lost with Purpose to encourage more responsible travel as she helps others to do the same. So, Alex, I would love to move on to my first question, which is when did traveling become the real deal for you?
What do you mean the real deal? um, I traveled a lot when I was younger just because, like, my parents are from two different countries. My mother's Filipino and my father's English. And so our family was kind of like everywhere in the world. So we got to travel a lot because of that. And then that kind of like sparked my interest to travel. And I think it was a trip. We went to Japan and the Philippines, like one to visit family and one for my parents' work. And then it was just like totally different from the United States, but in like a good way. I was like, wow, the other side of the world is amazing. This is completely different from what I know. Like, I want this more. How do I get this more? But I didn't really know how you would do that. um, and so I always wanted to like travel further, but I didn't have the money and I didn't know how it worked. And then in university, actually, I did like a semester abroad kind of thing, and I studied in Thailand for a semester. And while I was there, I met all these Europeans who were like, "Yeah, how long are you traveling? I've been traveling for like a year or 2 years or 3 years." It's like, you can do that? Is that a thing? I want to do that. Um, and so after that, it took me some time to like work and save up all the money. But in 2000 and what year was it? 2016, 15. I finally saved enough money and I sold all of my things and I got rid of my apartment and I started to travel and I thought I would go for like a year and my money lasted longer than that and then I found ways to make money while traveling and so here I am. Well, actually now I'm in my parents' house because of the pandemic, but before that I was traveling.
That was honestly wonderfully said. And it's also so inspiring because so many of us here really love to travel and want to travel. And it's so great how, you've used those experiences, you've been able to make money while traveling to sustain your travel. I mean, that is honestly so cool. We've never really, thought of that before. So that was really amazingly said. So thank you for sharing that with us. Now I'd like to give the opportunity to Arav to ask his question. So Arav, you may go ahead.
Hi, Alex. So
Hi.
your Instagram username is Lost with Purpose. What made you pick this unique username?
So I'm always getting lost. I'm like really, really bad with directions. If you tell me to go somewhere, I probably accidentally go in the other direction. But one of the things I realized is that if you just enjoy being lost, it's not a bad thing. It's kind of fun to get lost. And so my purpose is to enjoy being lost. And that's at least how it started. A lot of people think that I have this like really big purpose with my travels. It's like, no, I just like getting lost a lot. But then it's like the blog picked up and I started covering more like controversial topics and things like this. Like people kind of assume now that my purpose is to like educate and inform others while being lost. And so I said, okay, that sounds pretty smart actually. So you can say that if you want. But mostly it's to enjoy being lost.
That's great, Alex. So your idea about what your Instagram is about was also lost and it found a purpose. So that's great.
I did find a purpose, I guess. Yes.
Hey Alex, it's Alicia, and as seeing how much traveling is dear to your heart and is something that so many of us would love to do. However, when we see those pricey airfares and accommodation expenses, it usually hinders the motivation to travel. So I want to ask you, how do you afford to travel everywhere?
So, like doing the kind of flying somewhere different, going around for a few weeks and coming back is really expensive, as you guys know. And so, the way that I afford to travel is that I will go. I mean, like, I have the privilege of time because I left like an office job and found a way to make money digitally. And so that gives me the luxury of time. And so then I can just like fly or take a train or bus or whatever somewhere and just take my time and go slowly. There's other ways to cut down costs, like couch surfing is a way for you to stay at people's homes who are interested in hosting you. They're usually like other travelers, and they say like, yeah, you can sleep at my house for a few days and you don't have to pay anything. And like, basically, you just be nice and like cook them a meal or treat them to something when you go. And so that saves you a lot of money. And then you can do things like hitchhiking instead of buying a plane ticket or train ticket. And in general, like traveling over land isn't that expensive. It's really when you start to like fly a lot and like stay in nicer hotels. I always stay in like hostels or small guest houses. And then there's other ways to save money. Like there's programs called Workaway, which is a website where you can sign up and look for like different kinds of volunteering or like easier jobs in different countries. Like a lot of people use Workaway to work at like a hostel in, I don't know, Guatemala or something. And so basically you're working there for like 4 days a week, and then in exchange you get to stay there as long as you want, and they feed you and stuff like that. So that's a really good way to work, like work-ish, and save money while traveling. And then I've also done things like there's something called woofing, which is, what does that stand for? Worldwide Organic Something Farming. There's another O in there, but I forget what it means. Um, and that's something where you can like sign up to go to a farm in a certain country, and you basically work on their farm in exchange to be allowed to live and eat there. So there's all these like different kinds of ways that you can start to bring the cost down, but yeah, flying everywhere and staying in hotels is like one, bad for the environment, and two, very expensive. So there's different ways to save money. And just like in general, I mean I'm not like going out and shopping all the time. I like never buy souvenirs really. I'm not going to like expensive museums or like sites all the time because that gets really expensive. Like a lot of the times I just walk around and look at stuff. I just like walk around and talk to people on the street and have like tea or something somewhere. And so it's like not a top 10 site kind of thing, but you still get to experience other people's cultures and just get a lay of the land and see what's around for the price of like a tea. So
Thank you so much for enlightening us with that. I think travel enthusiast myself and many other who would love to travel, your pointers would definitely benefit them and would encourage them to travel more, because I totally agree with you that it is not about spending money, and everywhere you go on transport facilities, you could probably just walk or take the bike and just try to make the most of the money you have and enjoy your travel experience. So thank you for that.
exactly. There's a lot of different ways to travel, and some people are very good at spending money, but you don't have to do that. You can also just walk around and see.
Hi, Alex. I hope you're doing well. So, my question for you is, you're also a blogger, and oftentimes it is very hard to attract traffic to these blogs. So, how do you achieve that? Do you know of any ways to grow your blogs, particularly in terms of traffic and viewers?
Yeah, so one of the things that people don't really think about when they start a travel blog and they want to have like millions of readers or whatever is that to have strangers on the internet want to read your stuff, it usually has to be either like really, really, really interesting, like a story that they've never heard before, or it has to be useful. And useful stuff is what gets people to come back and keep finding you through like Google or social media because they're looking for a certain kind of information that you can provide. And so when I started my blog, I basically wanted it to be like a place to have all of the information that I always wanted, but couldn't find on the internet at the time that I was writing it. And so though there are like a bunch of useful posts like, hey, I went to this valley, here's like how I got the bus to there, here's where I stayed, here's how much I spent. That way other travelers can also do it. And so that's actually what makes up the majority of my traffic, is other people who are interested in doing something like what I've done and want to follow in my footsteps. And then usually they get sucked in and they're like, wow, we have a lot of stories. This is really fun. Like, ha 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 ha. But definitely, like, because when we all start blogging, like I did this too, we like write stories that only like our mother would care about. It's like, yeah, then I woke up and I had some like coffee and then I had breakfast and then I went to like whatever site and then I came home. And that's like not exciting. Like only our parents care about these things. But if you write about like one of the best experiences that you had there, or how you woke up and had coffee and where you went for breakfast and what site you went to and how much it cost, then it becomes useful for people who aren't their parents. And so that's how I personally focus on getting more traffic.
Yes, that's a great piece of advice. Thank you so much for sharing such an informative answer.
Happy to do that.
I like how you gave us this really valuable tips on how we can actually attract traffic by actually giving people value. I think that's something many of us don't really realize at the point we really choose to give people an insight of what we like, but we don't really take into consideration what they like. So I think that is a very powerful note to take down. And my next question for you is, was traveling ever a childhood passion for you, or did you have other passions growing up?
Oh, it was definitely a passion. I wanted to travel for so long. Like I said, I actually wanted to do a gap year after my high school. I like didn't know what that really meant, but I heard that like people would go after high school and travel for a year and just do their thing. But my parents were like, absolutely not. You can definitely not do that. You will never come back. And they're probably right. And so, yeah, like that's always been a dream. But my childhood passions, oh man, I've had so many. I wanted to be like, I wanted to dig up dinosaur bones. I wanted to be like an Olympic skier. I wanted to rule the world at one point. That I realized that would be a very difficult job. But no, traveling has been one of my like longest passions for sure. I don't even know what else I would want to be doing. I realized like I always wanted to travel. I knew that was my goal for like years and years now. And so I was trying to figure out how I can just do that more without having to do the like work, save up money, then travel, because I would be using the money on travel anyway. So I found a way to make money while traveling. And that's not a lot of money, but it's enough. And because I love traveling so much, it makes me happy.
I think we all could relate to that. There are so many of us here who, we keep on having different passions and different dream careers. And I could so relate to that because I remember when I was small, I wanted to become a teacher. And so many of my friends wanted to become teachers because we were so fantasized by, our teachers writing on the board. That was one thing. Then growing up, I remember I wanted to become a fashion designer. And, now I want to become something else. So, our passions and our dreams keep changing. And I know even as teenagers right now, we believe that, okay, this is my track that I'm going to go and nothing's going to, I'm not going to change from this. And, that's something that really sits with all of us because it keeps on changing. 10 years from now, we could probably become something else than we would have dreamt of when we were 16 or 17 years old. So I really agree with that. And I relate to that so much. So now
when I was your age, I thought I would be a doctor. And then I realized medical school would take a really long time. So I changed my mind. And then I thought I'd be an environmental scientist and a computer scientist. And then I thought I'd be a designer. And now I'm a travel blogger, but I might be something else in 5 years.
Exactly. We all have these crazy dreams of what we want to become. And that's so cool because it's just how it is. So now I'd like to give the opportunity to Manisha to ask her question.
Hi, Alex. This is Manisha. So my question to you is, what's your favorite part about traveling and what's the most difficult or annoying part about traveling?
My favorite part about traveling is probably just being able to wake up and do something I didn't expect every day. And I say that now because in the pandemic, I know exactly what's going to happen every day and it's making me go, yeah. But yeah, just being able to wake up and see something new and learn about something completely different and new every single day. Like, I'm just a really curious person and I really love learning about new things. And so when you're traveling, just everything around you is new and different. And I just really enjoy like being curious and poking around and seeing different kinds of things every day. So definitely that, just like excitement. Um, and then the worst part of traveling for me is packing. I hate packing so much. Like you don't even know. Because when you're traveling for a long time, you're packing and unpacking all the time. Like every few days, you have to put all your things into your bag and go. And it's just so many times I thought I would leave a place and then I look at my bag and I'm super messy. So I look at all my stuff on the ground and it's like, I can't do it. I don't want to go. I'm not leaving now. I can't pack. I just can't do it. Cause and when you're messy, it's much harder to push it all in. So I'm just like, smashing things into my backpack. I travel with a small like portable speaker and I basically just use it when it's time to pack because then I play really motivational music. It's like, okay, I can do this. I hate packing. I can do this. But packing is the worst. And then second worst would probably be flying. I don't enjoy flying. It's expensive. You miss out on seeing a lot of things. Airports look really similar around the world. Like flying is really bad for the environment and just like everyone's always angry when everyone's flying. Everyone is so miserable. They're just like everyone is late and trying to get in first and the planes are too small and then everyone's like pushing each other and just like flying. If I never had to fly in a plane again, that would be good, but some places you can only reach with planes.
Thank you for that wonderful response. It was really very interesting. For me personally, I haven't really traveled to any other country for about 3 to 4 years now. And listening to your journey really makes me go traveling really very soon. And like how people say, when you're having fun and enjoying the moments you're in, you don't really look at the annoying things. So, with that note, thank you once again.
I'm happy to help, and I hope you get to travel somewhere that makes you happy soon.
Hi again. So your Instagram is definitely a lot about activism and advocacy. I would like to know your views on the intersection of race and travel, especially when there are a lot of talks about the critical race theory and how institutions have been systematically oppressed towards the people of race. And how is it often overlooked in the industry, the intersection of race and travel?
Yeah, so as you guys have probably seen, or like at least in the West, the travel industry is very dominated by a certain kind of person, which is white, usually blonde or light brown hair. It's oftentimes men or like very beautiful women. Um, and so I find that frustrating because, I mean, look at us, like none of us are that person. And so when you're traveling, the way that people interact with you depends on how you look a lot of the time. Like if you're darker skinned, if you're a hijabi, if you're like from a certain like country in the world that has a lot of stereotypes against it, people do treat you differently, unfortunately, a lot of the time. Sometimes it's a positive thing, but a lot of the time it's a negative thing. And so I get frustrated with the lack of diversity in the travel industry because it's bad for travelers if they don't have people who look like them and can represent them better giving this information. And so the experience that like a really fair skinned blonde woman would have if she's traveling in India would probably be a lot better than if like an Indian traveler went and like no one would even know that they're from like where they're from, or they wouldn't even notice that they're not local in a lot of places. And so I think it's really important for people, like for there to be more diversity so that other travelers who aren't blonde can be better informed about the kind of experiences they have. And also if people are really racist in a certain place, it can be dangerous sometimes for travelers of a certain appearance to go to these places, but they would never know that unless someone who looks like them went there and shared the information. And so I think it's really important to talk about race when talking about our travel experiences. That's not to say that like people who are white or whatever, like superior or like perceived to be superior race aren't having legitimate experiences, but more that we need more voices talking about this. That way people can be better informed and stay safe because of it. And so I hope that people talk about it more in the future, but I know it's a really uncomfortable conversation for some people and they don't like admitting that they have privilege. So I hope people talk about it more. And I'm sorry, you had a bunch of other things in your question and I forgot what they were. Can you say them again?
Yeah, that was basically the heart of it. Apart from that, I just wanted to know your opinions about the basic, about how racially people are systematically, how people of race don't travel much, and why is that, and how to counter that on a broader perspective.
Yeah, I mean, just like people from countries that were colonized don't get to travel as much as people from the colonizing countries. And it's also interesting because like travel is much more integrated in colonial countries just because they've been doing it for hundreds of years now and they've had the power and they've had the wealth and it's just normalized at this point. I mean, like I told you earlier, I didn't know that you could travel long term until I met Europeans who do it. And like I'm living in Europe now, and I've lived in Europe for probably like 5 or 6 years in total now. And here, like where I've lived, going for a year or 2 years or 3 years abroad is normal. It's just like a thing that people do. It stems from the like grand tour that wealthy Europeans used to do back in the colonial days when they're like, ha ha ha, we'll go to like India or whatever by boat and wear our fancy dresses and do whatever they do. And so that's because they have the wealth of time and money and power and access to all of these things. And so it's really frustrating to see because they don't realize that there is that big difference a lot of the time. Like I'm also from the United States and a lot of Americans, I mean, one, the US is not very good at recognizing other parts of the world. But a lot of Americans don't realize that there's a lot of challenges just to get a visa to other countries. A lot of Americans think they can just drop in like wherever and that's how it is for everyone. And so they have just literally no idea how much time and money and paperwork it can take for other people. And that is a result of colonialism and like all of these like big powers deciding that all of them can go anywhere they want in the world, but it's not in the reverse. And so I find this really frustrating. And so this again is another place where having more diversity of voices in like mainstream travel media is really important. So that people begin to recognize like, oh, this isn't the case for everyone. That's not cool. How can we change this? Because this is BS and this is not okay. But I hope it changes. I mean, I just try to use my platform to at least bring these things up. I personally cannot change what governments do. I don't know how to do that. But if more people start pushing and talking about it and being aware of it, it would have, like, you don't know what could happen from that, hopefully.
I think yes,
Yeah, I
definitely
really
all
love
you said.
Go ahead, Alicia.
It's okay. You can go ahead, Arar.
I was just concluding, I think all you said, it was perfectly to you. You also talked about it on your Instagram as colonial travel imagery then versus now. And I think all of that is too because as Indian, we've already read about how the British used to travel here. And they used to, it was a travel destination. Cuba and all these places have been a travel destination for the colonizing countries. And that is still true today. So yeah.
Yeah, so I was just sitting here listening to what great things you do, and I really love that you have such a open mindset and such a welcoming heart that you use your platform not only to do photography and pursue your passion for traveling, but you also really express yourself and try to help people out. And I've heard that you were very vocal on a lot of issues that you just said, and you strongly advocate for them. So I wanted to know. When do you essentially begin to develop such a strong connection towards advocacy?
So when I first started, I didn't do that. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just posting things on the internet. And then as my platform grew, it was probably like a year or two in, and then people started sending me like comments and emails and pictures being like, hey, we did what you recommended. And it's like, oh, people actually look at this. That's interesting. I guess I should think about this more. And then as I grew bigger, like one, I had a boyfriend at the time who was very apolitical, and so I kind of like kept things low then I broke up with him. So I can say whatever I want. And it was like somewhere a few years in where I was like starting, like when you start traveling, you notice some of the negatives, but in general, you're just like, wow, this is amazing. Like the world is amazing. Look how beautiful this is. And then with time, like as that kind of rosy glow wears off, you start to like really recognize and confront all of these other issues going on. And so it kind of builds up with time, and I wanted to talk about it. And I realized at some point that like I have this platform where tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people see what I'm writing and what I'm doing and what I'm saying. And it's like, why not use that? Like, that would be a waste of my platform if I didn't use it for something better than just talking about myself, because I'm just a person. I'm not that important. But there's a lot of other things going on in the world that are really important and would benefit from having more people talking about it. And so it really just comes down to like, why waste the platform that I have? I find it really disappointing when people have like sometimes millions of followers and they don't use it for anything except to sell them stuff or to make their like stroke their own ego. It's a waste. Like, why would you do that? That's very narcissistic to me if someone just uses all of the reach that they have just to promote themselves. I think it's a shame. And so knowing that, like, I try to use my voice where appropriate and where possible, just because, like you all know, there's a lot of things going on in the world, and oftentimes there's not enough attention given to all of these things. And that's kind of how I fell into that. Sometimes I dig holes for myself and it makes it very difficult, but other times it's okay.
I totally agree with you, because at the end of the day, it's what we do for the world that really matters. And it's not the fame and the popularity that we gain that really counts. It's just temporarily. And I really like that you are really using your platform to help humanity grow better. So thank you.
You all know about that, I'm sure. So.
Hey Alex.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
It's kind of cool. Hello. So I have a question for you. Do you have a travel buddy with you?
So, well, right now I'm not traveling, but in the beginning I did. I had a boyfriend when I first started traveling, and we traveled together for like almost 2 years, I think. But then I broke up with him because I didn't want to be with him anymore. And so after that, I've traveled around myself. I've also traveled around with friends. So a lot of the time, I just meet people on the road who I get along with, and they're nice. So we might travel together for a few days. I think the longest I've traveled together with someone I met was like a month. I traveled around like India and parts of Bangladesh with a guy that I met on the road for a bit. But I do like being alone a lot. But so it's really a mix. Like, just I am controlling where I am going, so I don't have like a full-time travel buddy, but I'm totally happy to just meet people on the road if we get along and go around. It's one of the fun parts of traveling. You never know who you meet.
Okay, thanks for sharing.
Hi, Alex. So my question for you is, what has been the highlight of your life in 2021? And is there something you would wish to accomplish before 2022?
So my life has been really boring in 2021 because we're all in like lockdown still. But one highlight that I'm still working on is that, like you've mentioned it already, but I learned how to motorcycle while traveling. I learned how to motorcycle in Pakistan. Basically, I'd driven like scooters in Thailand and Cambodia before that, but just like really simple scooties. And so I really would love to do like around the world, or just somewhere, just anywhere exciting motorcycle trip. But I didn't have a driving license. I have a car driving license, but you need a motorcycle driving license, which I didn't have. And so I've been taking motorcycle lessons to get that license here in Belgium, where I am right now. You have to do lessons. It's required by law. And like I just took one of my tests 2 weeks ago, and so I passed half of it. So now I'm allowed to drive a motorcycle anywhere in Belgium, of like any size motorcycle. And I still have to pass a test with like following all the road rules. There are so many here. Oh my gosh. But almost there. I failed it twice. I failed once yesterday, but I'll take it again soon. And so that's like my biggest accomplishment for 2021, because I just really wanted to learn how to do this and to get that license. But it took some time to save up money to do it. And yeah, it was just not something that I ever thought I would be doing 5 years ago, but now it's like, this is what I need to do, and I need to do it now. And so I'm really, really excited to finally get my license. And so that's been my highlight for sure. And then in terms of what I want to accomplish before 2022, yeah, probably not fail my next test. I would really love to not fail my next test, because it's also getting expensive to keep on failing. And then I would really love to buy a motorcycle and drive somewhere. I would really like to try to drive through to, not China, but maybe the other side of Russia or something on a motorcycle. I really enjoyed Central Asia, and I would like to drive around there on a motorcycle. I just never feel like I have enough time there. And there's so many like beautiful remote villages and things there, and I'd really like to travel there on a motorcycle, but I just haven't done it yet. But now soon I can. So fingers crossed. But it's also the pandemic, so I know things are really different. So I might just be sitting and doing nothing by 2022 also. So we'll see. I hope it changes.
Well, congratulations on passing your test, one of your tests. And thank you for sharing your experience here with us. And I hope you succeed in all of your future endeavors.
Thank you. I hope you guys also had an okay 2021 despite everything. And I hope that you are successful in your 2022 also.
So Alex, you have traveled to a lot of unusual places as a solo female backpacker. There must be a lot of problems you face due to some unfortunate, archaic, misogynistic, and sexist laws, some general safety issues in some places you travel. Is there something you'd like to tell female backpackers and travelers around the world about what you face, the issues, and how to cope up with such things?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure you have an idea of the things that could happen. I have had plenty of issues. I mean, sometimes it's as simple as people just telling me I can't do things because I'm a woman and I shouldn't be alone and I can't leave the house alone and like I can't do things by myself. And then I have had people like following me or harassing me or grabbing at me or stalking me. And so it's not nice when it happens. It's not nice to have people like you teasing or grabbing you or whatever you want to call it. It's frustrating also because a lot of the times when I meet men, I have to be very careful. I'll still like talk to people and I'll still like have interactions with them, but in some places really like I'm like constantly on guard with men, just because even people who seem really nice at the start can suddenly change once they're alone with you or get some ideas. Like everyone thinks that I want to marry them is what it comes down to a lot of the time. And so it gets really frustrating. But on the other hand, if I let that stop me from traveling, that's like letting them win. That's the way I see it. Like things will happen regardless, but I find the value of the experiences that I have aside from all of that much greater than the harm that these encounters have for me. And I wouldn't want, like, I clearly love travel. It is my passion. It's what I want to be doing with my life. And I can't let a few people who are creepy stop me from doing that, basically. And so, like, that's just my personal view of it. And I understand that there's a lot of people where if something does happen or the fear of something happening is enough to make them want to stay home. And like we all have different levels of discomfort that we're comfortable with. That sounds really weird, actually. We all have different like tolerance levels for how uncomfortable we can be. And so just personally, I would rather be extremely uncomfortable sometimes because men kind of suck a lot than stop traveling completely. And so that's kind of the advice that I give to other female travelers is that don't don't be afraid of something happening, because unfortunately something will probably happen eventually, but it's more about not letting that stop you from doing what you love to do, whether that be like traveling or running your own business or starting a company, or that's the same thing, starting a company or like working in a certain place or doing a certain hobby. If that's what you want to do, you should do it, and don't let crappy people stop you from doing it. And so, because like a lot of people, I've seen it a lot where like someone travels to a country and like one bad thing happens to them, and then they decide that the whole country is bad. And like, you know, one bad person does not mean the whole country is bad. There are a lot of good people in the world. For every one man who was not so nice to me, I've had plenty of people be extremely welcoming and extremely helpful or protective. And so there are good and bad people everywhere. It's just about learning how to trust your instincts to avoid most of the bad people. There'll always be some, but it happens. Things happen. You just have to roll with it, basically.
I think the fact that women have to think twice, while men don't, about how they wear, where they go, about always having their guard on is rather unfortunate above anything else. So I think it's extremely brave that, and I think it's essential that women travel in order to, as you said, not let harassers win, in order to not let offenders win.
Absolutely. Yeah, the more people who do it, the more normalized it will get. And so there will still be some very creepy men out, but the more that it's normalized for women to be in public spaces and doing these things, the more welcoming people will be to the idea with time.
So this has been such a productive, fruitful, and fun conversation that we've had up till now. And I'm so grateful that we all, could learn so much about traveling, using our socials effectively, as well as different social issues that women face, that people of color face, that people who belong to minority groups face. And I'm so very thankful to you, Alex, because you took the time to enlighten us on all of these topics today. So thank you so much for taking the time, coming on here and answering all of our questions. It really means a lot to us.
I'm happy to help. I'm always happy to share and like inspire, help other travelers or anyone really. So thank you for having me. Thank you for all of your questions. They're all very insightful.
Thank
It's
you.
nice to see a bunch of like younger people so motivated to like have these conversations.
Yeah, I mean, this conversation was really very interesting. There were so many new things we learned, and we were enlightened in so many different ways. And I'm pretty sure that after this conversation, all of us would definitely be more motivated to travel, because it for sure is something that a lot of us really want to do. But probably because of our mindset and different things, like you said, bad experiences and stuff like that, they usually hinder the entire motivation to travel, and we don't get to see the bigger picture of what traveling is actually like. So thank you so much for breaking that barrier down, for us today, and helping us to see the broader aspect of what traveling is actually like.
You're all capable of doing it. I guarantee it. You just have to get out and try, and you'll find out you're much more capable than you think.
Exactly. So I hope you have a great day or night. I'm not sure which country you're in, but
it's day.
It's
10:41 in the morning.
So I hope you have a great day, and stay safe and stay well, and do keep in touch, because we will definitely keep you on the loop if we have different things coming up.
Yeah, super. Good luck with all of your planning, and thank you for all of your time. And I hope, whether it's day or night, wherever you are, I hope you enjoy the rest of your waking hours today.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. See you someday really soon.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.